All right, welcome to yet another fabulous Sunday night news and nonsense. A lot of technology news happening this week, so this should be a wonderful show. We've got Deckard Kane, who's co-hosting along with Total OS today, and for commentary, we invited Matthew Moore along. How you doing, Toss?
I really hate plumbing. Just when you think all I got to do is change a washer, but no, hoses, some biofilm, some valves. Oh, never mind.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then, of course, Matt has a new website called mattstechhub.com. Tell us about it.
Well, it's still not quite finished yet, but it's basically just a tech hub because a lot of communities like this one here are primarily focused on Linux, and I kind of want to take the focus everywhere. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. And of course, it will also tie into communities like this one and others as well. So hopefully it'll be pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. And then, of course, Deckard is our game night coordinator here at cupoflinux.com. And we have a new game that we're playing on Saturday nights. Why don't you tell us about that?
That's right. We finally got fed up with Zero AD's lag issue. If you're not aware,
Boo.
Zero AD is laggy as heck. So laggy that we all quit the game yesterday and said we need to find something else. So we chose to play OpenRA, which is a free open source game for Red Alert 2. They also have, Dune 2000 and another one as well available as mods, and that's the game we'll be playing. Check it out on YouTube. Actually, there's a lot of gameplay on there. It's a fantastic game.
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Red Alert 1 because if I'm not mistaken, I think Red Alert 2 has more of a 3D-ish kind of element to it. So I think it's based off of the first one.
Yeah, that's my bad. You're right.
Yeah, okay, good stuff. All right, the FCC approves net neutrality rules for open internet. The Federal Communications Commission approved the policy known as net neutrality by a 3-2 vote at its Thursday meeting, with FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler saying the policy will ensure that no one, whether government or corporate, should control free and open access to the internet. Some responses to this, on the positive side, this is a victory for free speech. Plain and simple. Americans use the internet not just to work and play, but to discuss politics and learn about the world around them. The FCC has a critical role to play in protecting citizens' ability to see what they want and say what they want online without interference. Title II provides the firmest possible foundation for such protections while still sifting through the full details of the new rules. But the main point is that the internet, the primary place where Americans exercise their right to free expression, remains open and to all voices and points of view. And then, of course, Harold Ford Jr. on the other side of the coin says, boo. The FCC's decision to impose obsolete telephone era regulations on the high-speed internet is one giant step backwards for the American broadband networks and everyone who depends upon them. You know what? I think somebody put too much money in that man's pocket to come out with that, because if the cable companies have control over how we consume the internet, you can kiss the internet as we know it. Goodbye. Now, this isn't a victory speech yet, so don't be jumping up and down for joy. This still has to go to Congress, and they have to pass it. And all of your elected officials may or may not toss this one out. So, yeah, we've got a way to go on that one. How do you see it, Toss?
Government and the people is like a marriage, Spatry, and what are the statistics? 50% of marriages are good and half don't make it. So I will say that this is 50% good. So that's my final answer. Thank you.
Matthew, any thoughts on that?
Don't forget, the number one cause of divorce is marriage. But what I think about this net neutrality thing, it's a little crazy because if anybody remembers when this thing first happened, the FCC was on the side of net neutrality anyway, and they didn't have the jurisdiction to push it through. people like Verizon and some other cable companies actually started a lawsuit to try to persuade them in the other direction, saying that they didn't have the authority. And now it seems that we've gone over a year through all this red tape just to get to a place where we should have been already. It's idiotic, really.
You're married, Matthew. Marriage is grand. Divorce is 100 grand. What do you think, Record, on this one?
You know, I am a firm believer in what they tell you is not what's going to happen. So, you know, it's great that they're on the right side now, but let's not forget how rich and powerful most of these cable companies are. And, you know, if it does come to Congress and they do get it through, this is just one battle that was won that we now have to continue fighting for to keep it the way that we want it. So, you know, perhaps the battle's looking good, but there's so many more things to take into consideration that this is really just a small little blip on my radar, and I'm not sure whether or not this will actually get through. I'm very, very skeptical that this will make it.
Yeah, now Deckard's Canada, and the thing is, this probably doesn't really affect you so much. But then again, you know, anything that happens in the U.S., you know, is going to start, creeping its way around our globe here and that sort of thing. So
that's right.
So we can only hope and pray on that one. Toss, what you got?
For all the fans of the Linux Mint Mate or Mate, and for those of you who like Ubuntu Mate Spatry is now an official flavor of the canonical family of Ubuntu, such as, you know, Kubuntu, Xubuntu, Shmubuntu, and the list goes on. Yeah, they just made it, starting with 1504, which is not final. However, you can download, I believe, the first beta for 1504 now, if you so choose to, and Ubuntu Mate, as I said, is now official.
And remember, kids, those odd release numbers, I believe those aren't long-term support and that sort of thing. So play with it, but you only get support for it for, I think, about, what, 9 months is that now?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Deckard, what you got?
The Oculus Mobile VR Jam in April in an effort to foster more VR content. So it looks like Oculus Rift is creating a mobile version of their VR headset. Apparently, it's got something to do with Samsung as well, so we'll probably have to see how this sort of thing goes along with Linux gaming. It seems more and more now that things like Oculus are going more Linux-oriented, so I'm looking forward to that on my Linux platforms.
You know, and those VR sets are something else, I'm telling you. They've had, trade shows and stuff like that where you put this wonky looking thing on your head, and as you turn your head, you can physically view the 3D world. Just imagine it's coming to the desktop. And speaking of the desktop, XFCE 4.12 has released, and if you're running Manjaro Linux, you already have it, because the development team, they've been building these from Git, and we've seen all of these new features that they bring to the table. I will have a video coming up this week where I will show some of these, but here are some highlights. The window manager gained a new themable alt-tab dialog, along with window previews and a list mode. The panel can now intelligently hide itself, and it supports GTK3 plugins and lots of other third-party plugins. Whisker menu has now been incorporated into XFCE. There's been session manager improvements. I really like the display manager improvements that it has as well. They've also done some power management, and they even enabled tabbed browsing in Thunar and a few other enhancements. And they are saying on their website that theme makers need to focus on doing GTK3 in the future, because it does have partial GTK3 support, but not full GTK3 support. I've watched XFCE mature while running Manjaro. I really love this. I like all the new features that keep coming in, and so good job to the XFCE team. And look forward to my video on that sometime this week where I'll talk about those features. What you got, Toss?
Well, let me stick with the Ubuntu theme. There is a new film coming out next month, Spatchery, from the other company. Of course, last month we had the company BQ. By the way, they had another sale of the phone, I believe, this past Friday, the 26th. I don't know if it's sold out. I would not be surprised. However, next month, from the company Meisu from China, this phone is called the MX4, and this will have 8 cores. So be on the lookout for that.
What?
8? Yeah, I know. Coming out next month,
cores.
and I'm assuming it's going to be a little bit faster. So look out for that.
Yeah, well, with 8 cores, it better be faster. What are you going to do with 8 cores on a phone? My goodness. Deckard, what you got?
I have a little bit of what I consider to be nonsense, but let's keep in mind here that this is
here
something.
It comes.
Hey, that's me on my line. Hey.
This is something that Canadians in particular will be using, and they're treating this very, very seriously. So, the title here is A Way to Help Canadians Love Winter. Urban architect Matt Gibbs' award-winning idea would see the city build an 11-kilometer multi-use track around downtown that could be flooded into a rink in the winter. So, what this is it's a little sort of trench that they're going to dig as a walkway in downtown Edmonton that they plan on filling with water and freezing in the winter to make a skateway. So you put on your pair of skates and you can skate down to work.
Well, that's interesting.
Now, yeah, that does sound like a really good idea. And that sounds like something that's practical. But not only that, that's a great place to take your weekend date. You know, they have some nice mood lighting and maybe some music piping out through the speakers and that sort of thing. And people out there ice skating. I think it's a terrific idea. Absolutely. Good stuff.
Absolute great idea. But in my mind, all I can picture is all of the drunk people trying to skate down this rink, knocking into people, falling all over the place, people tripping on it. Just,
a few little cerebral hemorrhages and bumps and bruises there. All right. And, well, it appears they've got a new smartwatch, Toss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's got a really cool feature on it. I'm sorry. Yeah, not that feature. You've seen those pocket watches that men, carry, when they're wearing their 3-piece suits and that sort of thing. Well, it appears that there's this new pocket watch that runs Firefox OS. And I think the company's name is Monome. And they unveiled a disc-shaped Runcible smartphone running Firefox OS. The camera-equipped device is notable for its chilled-out UI and modular construction. The Runcible will launch in the second half of the year through Japanese carrier Kiddi, K-I-D-D-I, which has invested in Berkeley, California startup Monome Incorporated. The company name combines the Japanese word mono or object with ohm, the unit for electrical resistance, according to a CNET post, which includes interviews of the co-founders.
Spatry, you and I first talked about smartwatches. I first brought it up. I think it was our very first Sunday night news. Well, it wasn't called that. It was, what was it called? A Tostoday Tech Talk or a Tostoday Tech?
No, we've been calling it news and nonsense from the beginning, I'm pretty sure.
No, because I think our very, very first one we did together, and you can go back and hear it, it wasn't called this. You said, hey, you know what, Toss, you really need to call this a Sunday night. It was called a Tostoday Tech Talk or Tostoday.
You could be right.
Yeah, or Tostoday Tech Brief. Maybe that's it. And we were talking, of course, then we started making fun of companies. And I think Sony tried to come out with the first smartwatch. And we made fun of it, and it just goes to show that Spatry was dead wrong about this. But no, we were both wrong. We made fun of it, but look, a few years later, smart watches are here to stay. The price is coming down, although there's a few friends of mine or a few people I know who have smart watches. They like them, but the battery life really, I guess, really sucks. I'm going to hold off, but I think they start as low as $100 or like $150 for a cool new gadget, which is not bad. I don't have one. I don't think I will buy one anytime soon. But if they can get the battery life from say 1 day to a week, then they got my attention.
Yeah. What you got, Matthew? What do you think about that?
Watches. I don't know.
It's funny because we have a thread on our forum asking people, if they, and it's a poll, asking people, would they use a smartwatch, that sort of thing. And do you know, it's a yes or no question. As of today, not one yes answer yet on that poll. Everybody's voted no to that. And, I have enough. I mentioned that I have enough distractions in my life. Why do I need another distraction on my wrist, So I think that's the general point of view everybody else has. But hey, more power to you if this is your sort of thing. Deckard, what you got?
Well, on the topic of smart watches, let's look at it this way. The only people that are really going to wear these are tech people. Now let's look at the practical uses of a smartwatch. Most people I see with these sort of things, it's for exercising, and you will not catch me dead exercising. So why would tech people want to wear this sort of thing, Well,
yeah, well, I imagine, the nice thing about them is if you've got a Bluetooth ear set and that sort of thing, if you're one of those on the run businessmen all the time, having a little watch or something like that, that you can interface and hold your conversations on. But really, I don't know. But the screens are so small. So, right. I mean, you've got to have 2015 vision to even view them in the first place, Yeah.
I think something like that, number one, battery life of a day only, if that's true, that's not going to cut it for me. It has to be preferably a week or at least 3 or 4 days. But I think something like that with Bluetooth, it might be safer when you're driving, because that still allows you to keep both hands on the wheel with the watch and maybe like a little speakerphone if it's viable. I don't know, but I could certainly see that. Quick notifications, quick messages, I can see that. I mean, I'm not going to render any videos on my watch or anything, but especially I can definitely see it, between $100-200 for a nice quality watch with certain specific functions that I mentioned. I could certainly see that, yeah.
Maybe they could come out with a Casio calculator watch face for it.
Yeah, well, think of all those wonderful applications that people waste their money on, such as the Chubby Checker, or no, never mind. Sorry about that.
Let's continue on with some more nonsense, shall we?
Bring it on, Toss.
Well, this is a word I never thought I would ever use on any podcast. Llamas.
Yes.
Sun City, Arizona. This was, I guess, February 26th. Llamas apparently went on a run in Arizona. I guess this spurred a bunch of viral videos, was streamed live by local news. I'm not really sure why llamas, 2 of them, what they were doing on the streets of Arizona. Maybe they were shooting a new Rambo movie, but no. But yeah, I don't know why there would be llamas on the street. They look kind of cool. Looking at the picture, they look friendly. I'm not sure if you can actually have a llama as a pet. Maybe the llama can be the new KDE mascot or something. But yeah, so be on the lookout for llamas if you live in Arizona.
Especially if you're in a retirement community, because I believe they have the llamas there for retirees and that sort of thing. To bring the petting zoo to the retirees and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And somebody left the gate open, and then a white and black llama go running on a rampage on the streets and that sort of thing. And they actually had to get an animal handler in to capture them and that sort of thing. So, yeah, but that actually made headline news.
Well, it's so rare. Llamas in the news. Did you say llama? Yes, I did.
Now, see, it would be even more fun if they were all gnu's, then we could have the gnu's and nonsense. Never mind. Deckard, what you got?
Alrighty, first off, do we all know who Rob Ford is?
Rob who?
Rob Ford, the famous guy, the Toronto councillor who was allegedly, I guess, I guess it's confirmed now, smoking crack. Yeah, well, he's posted some merchandise on eBay. The merchandise that he's selling is the sweatshirt that he wore in the video, the picture of him and his friends smoking crack, as well as, it gets better, as well as the tie that he wore to court when he confessed that, yes, indeed, he was smoking crack. Now, how much would you pay? How much would you pay for that?
I wouldn't pay anything for it. Why? What is he asking?
He has gotten $13,000 just for the tie. Just for the tie. Really, people? I don't know what's worse, that Rob Ford is begging for more publicity, or that Canadians are willing to pay $13,000 for a tie. Like, come on, people. Let's put this in the ground. We've shamed ourselves enough.
You Canadians are freaking weird, let me just tell you.
Well, tell me about it.
I'm surprised he's not hawking the underwear, too.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Of course, the question is, if people are spending that kind of money, who's really actually smoking the crack, right?
The NSA is, and speaking of which, NSA, everybody loves the NSA. That's right. The NSA spying wins another rubber stamp. Mass surveillance will continue for now, but is set to expire on June 1st unless Congress acts. A federal court has again renewed an order allowing the National Security Agency to continue its bulk collection of American phone records, a decision that comes more than a year after President Obama pledged to end the controversial program. Why am I not surprised by this? The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court approved this week a government request to keep the NSA's mass surveillance of U.S. phone metadata operating until June 1st, coinciding with when the legal authority of the program is set to expire in Congress. You know, maybe they're going to have to change their name from NSA to something else so they can keep doing their crap-oly.
The NSA, the skin rash that will not go away.
That bit there when you said Obama was going to fix it all. No, he's not going to fix it. He just wanted to cover it up. That's all. You know, change the name, sweep him under the rug. Man, oh man, I tell you, that they'll never go away. It's impossible.
Yeah, the only thing is, you see, when you're sweeping the floor, if you keep, sweeping the dust under the carpet or, up in the corner, it does eventually pile up after a while. All right, who's next? You toss.
Well, just briefly here, since we're on the theme of Canada, I don't know if you caught this, but there's a picture online of an Ontario man posting a video of his dog shoveling snow. Of
his what?
His dog shoveling snow with a shovel. The dog has the handle in his mouth, and he's shoveling snow, which I think is kind of cool. This is dated February 24th from Toronto.
Well, you know what, Toss? We got so much snow up here that we need every living thing to help us get it out of the way, especially in Toronto.
Well, Let
me tell you, I lived in Toronto for a little while there, just about a year and a half. They declared a state of emergency because they did not have a place to put all of the snow. They literally had to shut down half of the city because they couldn't get it out of the way fast enough. So it comes as no surprise that we're training our dogs to help us out here.
And that's why Deckard spends so much time in this community, because usually he's snowed in where I'm basking in the Florida sunshine down here.
So that's where the saying come from, like it's snowing cats and dogs.
Yeah, really.
No, it's snowing cats, dogs. Come on.
Right.
Well, it looks like Google is back in the news again. Yandex asks Russian authorities to drop the hammer on Google. Yandex has asked Russia's antitrust authorities to look into whether Google is breaking the country's laws by not allowing pre-installation of third-party services on Android devices. These smartphone vendors told Yandex last year that they couldn't install its search engine as the default on Android devices. the company claimed. Yandex is seeking to have the Android OS unbundled from Google Search and other end-user services. The EU, we'll just call it U, the EU began looking into this issue last year. Yeah, it's like Google comes with every Android nowadays. But then again, they have the source code behind the OS. And I personally think that vendors should be able to opt for whichever search engines and that sort of thing on their devices rather than having Google. And I mean, this is starting to look an awful lot like the antitrust campaign that went against Microsoft in the early 2000s when it was forcing Internet Explorer as part of the Windows 98 operating system. So actually, this was in the late 90s. And you guys remember that, don't you?
When I was on the Internet in the 90s, we had super, super slow Internet.
Well, sure, we were dial-up, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. Your dial-up, divide that by like 4, and that was about what we had.
Yeah, if you had a 56K modem, you were really sailing back then. Now it's a joke.
Yeah, news didn't spread very fast up here. I didn't even know that happened. But you know what? It doesn't make sense to me. Windows is Microsoft, and they also make a product called Internet Explorer, both of which work harmoniously with apps developed by for Windows platforms. So why would it make sense to bundle them? Same thing for Android. Android is made by Google. Google is made by Google. So it would make sense to bundle them. Sure, there should be an option to install whatever search engine you like, but by default, it should be Google.
Yeah, now, and that's the thing, there are so many different web browsers that you can get for your Android. I use Xscope Pro. But there's also Dolphin. That's another popular one. There's also Opera. And by the way, if you guys haven't tried Opera on Android, that's an awesome device. And the thing is, in these applications, you can set up your default search provider. And you can also get widgets to put on your virtual flip screen, desktop, whatever you want to call it on Android, and have your own customized search. So, I mean, I don't really see that as much of an inconvenience for the end user. Personally, I use Google all the time, although behind a VPN so they can't track me. But I love Google Search, and I'll probably continue using it. It's fast, and it gets me the information that I'm looking for. But then there are others that will say, DuckDuckGo is the way to go, or Bing. Whatever, whatever search provider you choose, you'll figure out a way to set it up to your liking, So at the end of the day, I think this is just a bunch of pointless banter, somebody wanting to complain about something, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. In my head, all I can imagine is Yandex saying, oh, well, we're not as popular as we'd like to be, and that's because no user wants to set us as their search engine, so we have to make it default. Well, if nobody wants to set you as their search engine, then maybe you're doing something wrong. Why complain about it? Do better. Maybe they'll want your product.
Exactly. And, we keep bringing this up all the time, and I'm surprised that we haven't been seeing a lot of patent wars, because I think the year before last, that's all we were talking about on News and Nonsense was patent wars, this Samsung versus Apple versus Joe Blow, blah, 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 back and forth, cat and mouse games and that sort of thing. And, yeah, it's... I think this is always going to make fodder for the news, to be honest with you, regarding all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, make a better product. People will want it, and they'll go after it.
Yeah, if you spent the time that you spent complaining in developing new technology, we wouldn't be here.
All right, and then on a sadder side of the news, we lost Mr. Spock. Leonard Nimoy passed away, and of course, William Shatner missed Nimoy's funeral. He was down in Florida here, appearing at a Red Cross ball, and unfortunately could not make it to the funeral. I'll tell you what, if it were me, I would have dropped those plans to go to a best friend's funeral. But yeah, really sad that Mr. Spock left. He has gone. Where? Well, actually, I can't plug that line anyway. He's gone where I haven't gone before anyway.
It's ironic. It's ironic, Spatry, that Captain Kirk was so busy that he couldn't find a way to be transported to the other place. Haha. But yeah.
Yeah. Beam me up, Scotty. It's funny because we were talking about that last year. That Gene Roddenberry and I think James Doohan are getting buried in space. I'm surprised they're not doing the same thing with Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah. Oh well, to each his own.
Yeah. I was actually watching some of his old In Search of episodes, and he's got that perfect voice as a narrator and that sort of thing. I really enjoyed that show when I was younger, so, I took a little bit of time to remember him myself, But the thing is, he'll always live on in all of his movies and that sort of thing. So we'll miss you, Leonard Nimoy. What you got, Toss?
Well, I don't have any other news, but on a personal note, I realized today that this will be once I edit and put it up, and this will be my 1,000th video, Spatry.
Wow.
Yeah, I started this, as you know, it'll be 5 years ago, the end of this month, and look, I'm here. Part of the reason why I'm here is because of the community and people like you and the friends I've made. Of course, IG, in fact, Infinitely Galactic was my very, very first podcast. And then you came along, and of course, I've met other terrific people on various, communities and just browsing the web, word of mouth. But yeah, this will officially be my 1,000th upload. So I thought it would be fitting to mention it tonight, because part of the reason I'm here is because you're here. So thank you.
Yeah, and we'd like to thank everybody who participates in our communities and on our YouTube channels and that sort of thing. And now, Toss, show off. Now I've got 375 more videos to get caught up to you.
Well, what can I say? One more thing. This is Cup of Linux, but just to let people know, everybody's welcome. Welcome to come, especially Windows user. I still use Windows. There's nothing wrong with that if you dual boot or thinking about switching. So everyone is welcome, even though we talk primarily about Linux, but this is a show for humanity first and technology second, right, Spatry?
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that? Of course. I always say at the end of the day, use what works for you best. And yes, our primary topic of discussion at Cup of Linux, of course, is Linux. But we now have a growing BSD community as well. We even had to set up a new board for that. So we have people posting their stuff on BSD. Maybe one day I'll take on
BSD. I love it.
BSD. Yeah. It sounds like what those little characters say in 0 AD when you click the character BSD. Or I think it's something else they say, but it sounds like BSD.
That's
and that sort
not
of
what
thing,
was on my mind. I was thinking of bull bleep distribution.
Hey.
I'm just kidding.
We don't want to make any enemies.
This is nonsense, right? Yes, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Deckard, you got anything else?
Oh, did you hear that, folks? Everyone that likes BSD, go hurt Toss today.
Say, I thought you had something on that Superfish thing.
I do indeed.
Boo.
Lenovo,
okay, bring it on.
For those who do install malware. Whether or not you believe that Lenovo was misled by Superfish, or you think the company nefariously put malware onto its products on purpose, or something in between those extremes, the company is saying all the right things at this point. The company posted yet another statement on its websites today, offering Lenovo users an olive branch in the form of a free 6-month subscription to McAfee LifeSafe service. Existing customers will get a 6-month extension, as well as pledge to stop loading bloatware onto its PCs in the future. There's so many things wrong with this, I don't even know where to begin.
That song, Can't Buy Me Love, comes to mind,
Well, it's great that they're trying to settle this, But, a free 6-month subscription to McAfee. Well, great. Now I have to get McAfee in order to resolve this. Well, why didn't you offer something else? And secondly, pledge to stop loading bloatware onto its PCs in the future. I highly doubt that. And why did you do it in the first place?
Now, I don't know if anything has changed with McAfee, but I can tell you when I was using Windows and I had McAfee installed, do you know it was a pain in the neck to uninstall off the system? It was
yes.
It was like McAfee itself was like, malware. These applications need to have a way to uninstall it easily, and this is just yet another form of a vendor lock-in. When they have something, when you have the software installed on your system and they make you jump through all of these hoops to get it uninstalled, that's nuts. But in relation to the article, all I have to say is this. Screw me once, shame on you. Screw me twice, shame on me.
Well, let me just say that I don't recall ever having that many issues uninstalling McAfee. I've used McAfee, Avast, and some others, to protect myself. But I have to say, on a side note, since Windows 7 beta, I've yet to see a blue screen crash or any type of virus or spyware attack my system. So maybe I should do a series of videos on that, like, PC security for dummies or something like that.
Who had a really good show on that was the Buck Bull. He was actually one of the first guests I've had on Cup of Linux. He actually he used to do antivirus testing and stuff like that on his YouTube channel. And after watching a number of videos that we did on that I've been doing on Cup of Linux, he decided to give it a try, and he liked it. And I have to look him up again, see if he's still, doing Windows videos, or if he just decided to change his show format over to Linux. I haven't seen anything, but it's funny. So thanks for bringing that up, because I really have to look him up and see what he's been up to.
Let me give you a little bit of insider knowledge here on this McAfee bit.
Oh,
McAfee is so bad that once you have it installed, you literally have to use a third-party tool to scalpel it out of your computer. So much so that Staples, the company that I work for, has created a piece of software that they distribute to all Staples stores that you can run to remove it from the system. So they're replacing Superfish, a really bad program pre-installed on machines, with another really bad program that you can't get off. Both of which are super hard to get off, and all of which the regular user won't be able to get off anyways. And we were talking pre-show here about how I think it's a little too late, not because of my own personal need. I'm more or less, if I bought a Lenovo product, I'll uninstall it myself, and no harm done to myself. But what about the elderly people that are using machines, or the technology declined people of today? How are they going to cope with this sort of thing? Lenovo machines aren't cheap, and a lot of them are enterprise level. This has caused such a big headache for everyone involved that I don't know that how many businesses are really going to forgive this sort of thing. And it's really quite a shame to see what they've done to people. And even in their trying to make up for it, they've done yet another disservice to their customers.
Any final thoughts on that?
Well, as I stated, Lenovo, leave now or very often.
All right, gang. Well, we have run out of time. This has been another fabulous Sunday night news and nonsense report. I'd like to thank Deckard Kane for joining us, Matthew Moore for joining us in commentary, and Total OS Today. Yours truly, Spatries here. Join us every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, UTC -5 for Cup of Linux Game Night. We'll be doing Star Conflict from 8 to 8:45, and Open RA from 8:45 until everybody gets tired of playing. And then, of course, we'll be back again next Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Mumble server for our Sunday night news and nonsense report. Thank you, all of you, for joining us in the listening room. It's always a pleasure to have you here. We'll hop back in the lounge for post-show conversation, and we'll see you all next week. Peace out.